Should optional higher difficulty matchmaking be implemented in Destiny 2? Well, that's something I wanted to talk about in this video and give my 2 cents on. Recently, many people in the community started talking about how Bungie should introduce a matchmaking system for higher difficulty content in the game, such as the seasonal arena and pretty much most endgame content. So where do we start? First of all, most content in the game actually does have matchmaking. If you want to play with little to no worry, you can hop into Nightfall on its 2 lower difficulties, or just jump into core playlist activity like Strikes, Gambit, or Crucible. The normal version of the seasonal arena is always match-made, Dares of Eternity from the 30th anniversary pack, the Wellspring, the weekly Witch Queen campaign mission, and quite a few others. Point is, most in quotation marks activities have a way players can jump into content without worrying about what power they are, what loadout they have equipped, or even what mods they're using. Bungie does this for a few reasons. They want players regardless of experience or gear limitations to be able to enjoy the content they create while not having them be impeded in any way. They also want players to have clear and direct access to some content because, let's be honest, it would be a nightmare if you had to LFG for every single activity in the game. Could you imagine if you wanted to run normal playlist strikes, you had to find 2 other guardians? Yeah, all set with that. This is because, believe it or not, the vast majority of the Destiny community is actually casual. They're people who play the game a couple hours a day after work or school, maybe 2 or 4 times a week, and that's it. Now, a quick elitist take here, I don't think it's very difficult to get leveled up and acquire a half-decent loadout to be able to knock out all endgame content in this game. There's so many activities you can do by yourself to increase your power level up to the hard cap without needing to find a team on LFG. Plus, you have the seasonal artifact also helping you out as you go, so reaching a decent light level isn't difficult. Anyways, getting back on topic, should Bungie introduce optional matchmaking for higher difficulty content? Well, I'm not opposed to it, but there obviously would need to be some prerequisites put in place for this to work effectively. For example, at the making of this video, master difficulty content is set to 1600 power, so I think anyone attempting to try and matchmake for content this high of a power requirement should need to meet a certain light level themselves before they even have access to it. This could be up for debate, but let's say you need to be at least 1580 power. This is because we need to keep people who really shouldn't be there out of the matchmaking to reduce complications and frustration as much as possible. If you let a 1550 Guardian who just came back to the game after not playing a couple seasons and let them hop into a 1600 light level activity that's match-made, they're going to get rolled, have a bad time themselves, and just simply frustrate other players. I also think in order to even be able to enter the higher difficulty match-made content, you need to be running champion mods because nowadays all endgame content at its highest difficulty has champions. If you let 6 people matchmake into the master version of the seasonal arena and none of them have a champion mod equipped because the game didn't force any of them to run them, it would be a disaster. Overall, for things like the seasonal arena, master campaign missions, nightfalls, and stuff like that, if you made people reach a certain light level and run certain champion mods, I feel like Bungie could dabble around and experiment with that. If it goes well and people like it, you could work on it and make it better, and if it doesn't work so well, then try to find a solution and also try to make it better. But overall, if it ends up being a disaster, then just remove it completely. At the end of the day, there are so many different LFGs a player can hit up to find people to play with, it's really not that big of a deal. If you play on PC, join a Discord. If you're on console, you have a built-in LFG for every game. And if you're on Stadia, well, it's time to find another platform. You gotta figure that out soon. And if you don't want to try any of that, just use one of the Destiny app LFGs. It's really just that easy. You have so many options and you don't even need a headset or mic. Just invite or join someone, jump in and complete the activity without even talking, and be on your way. As far as matchmaking for raids and dungeons go, that's a different story. The thing with matchmaking is you generally want whatever activity you're doing to only take 10 to 15 minutes at the most. The thing with raids and dungeons is they take well over that time to complete, even if you're a veteran player with an optimized loadout, unless you're a speedrunner, but we're not taking those people into account here for obvious reasons. So the big problem there is if you have a team matchmake, don't expect them to stay until the end. It's simply going to take too long. Also, the completion rates would most likely be abysmal, which wouldn't be something Bungie would leave in the game. You want the completion rates of match-made activities to be relatively high to avoid hurting other players. That's why when you leave too many Crucible or Gambit matches, you get a suspension. Also, raids and dungeons have more complex mechanics and people need to communicate, and if they can't, then things just kind of fall apart and go nowhere. So overall, as far as matchmaking goes in raids and dungeons, I'm going to have to say no. These activities take way too long, are too complex especially without communication, and overall would have horrible completion rates in the long run. Anyways, if you think they wouldn't, I think you guys have very high expectations and faith in the community's ability. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments section below. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Stay frosty.